Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the vault, episode 407, Trustee System Literacy Conference. Definitely want to talk about the Asset Protection Conference. It is literally a trustee system literacy conference. Very, very important when we talk about it from that perspective, because it is focused on education. Um, and we could talk about so many things, even in the title, trusteeship, about systems, about literacy, and ultimately just being at a conference where you're in a room with other trustees. Ultimately, because people entrusted with people entrust. So this is going to be a great workshop. Looking forward to everybody coming to the workshop. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. We got Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate Mississippi for tuning in live, listening to replay. So, Trustee System Literacy Conference. That is what you're looking at as a flyer on the screen. Christian at trustchristian.com. You can reach out there. We definitely are going to have our mentors, partners, associates at this workshop. Speakers are going to be Cornell, Victor. This is going to be just a really important. People ask about the VIP dinner. That's actually going to be from 5 to 7. So we are going to extend some more time to have a little bit more intimate conversations with our trustees, or people that are VIP pretty much. So look forward to that. Um, right now the marketplace is showing up. We see the trustees coming through, but do we see the people in the public that are able to move about? When we see flights getting canceled and rerouted. So we're definitely excited about having this conversation today about a system of literacy conference, because that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. It's about literacy. When it comes, what people talk about, well, oh, it's financial literacy, financial literacy. Oh, I want to focus on financial literacy. You want to focus on financial literacy, but what does that really mean? Well, we don't need to talk about that. Let's talk about trustee system literacy conference. So what is the trustee system literacy conference? Well, it's a conference that's going to go over topics that are on the actual flyer, trading out of the trust account. What is the purpose of that? When you see every company that's on the market is traded out of they have Alphabet that owns Google, correct? They have Meta that owns Facebook and Instagram now, correct. So you see these modern uh, entities that are in place to grow, because as you grow, the more you know, the more you know, the more you grow. It's a rhyme or reason. And the reason is because it's a system. It's a system that works together. So why do we still do the literacy conferences? Because this isn't the first conference we've done. But we've done a lot of conferences. What was the purpose of creating a legacy for future generations? Private family banking setup. How do you move forward when you got a system in place of banking? Well, that's going to show our family how to maintain their finances. Why? You think if your family owns a bank privately, they might know how to borrow money and it's probably not going to be outside of the family? Well, yeah, that's what we can say. Is they're going to borrow within the family. We're not having financial advice here or legal advice. This is a conversation. Traditionally, the conversations we have with our trustees in the private, the conversations and topics that we go over at our workshops, or our conferences, what we talk about, especially when you talk about a system of literacy. When you talk about having a manual or some type of diary in place that states these are the things that were done in the previous days of this uh, financial management. So let's talk about it, especially in trust. When you talk about it in trust, well, we talking about it in trust. You be talking about it from a trustee perspective, correct? Not talking about it from a beneficiary perspective. The System of Literacy Conference or System Literacy Conference, we talk about the ins and outs of money. What's interesting that we talked, we got in contact with some people recently and we talked about the power of what will be considered real money, real hard assets. Those are things that we've always started out at the conferences. We started out with the real hard tangible, hard intangible. Not the intangible. Yes, there are intangible assets, but there's also tangible assets. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live. Hit that like button. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live and hits the like button. Hit the like button and let us know you appreciate the content. So we have a trustee system literacy conference that we need to talk about these things. We are talking about these things. Charitable investments. Oh man, I want to knock this country and knock that country. But for some odd reason, when you say you're knocking these countries, who's one of the most giving countries in the world? What countries are the most givingest countries in the world? Charitable investments going into other countries, unbeknownst to the we don't even want to describe them because we see that this is pervading, operating in the world as people are out saying we're doing charity in the world and are growing in perpetuity. That creates a legacy for future generations. Future generations when you can have your family doing what they love and they're getting paid for it. From what? The system that you put in place for them. That's the art that they wanted to explore. How do you finance those dreams? Because it's almost like how do you finance those dreams? We talk about financing those dreams from the private family banking system. So we're gonna have an incredible workshop. Look forward to everyone being there live. Definitely not doing anything online, so no online conferences. They're just all face to face. When we talk about these environments, we've always had standing room only. When we talk about these environments, we're talking about uh, the focus is on not just literacy but intimacy. What, what would not be closer to someone's heart than their money and their family? So when you talk about a legacy for your generations, that's your money and your family. So it's an intimate setting. It's intimate. It's not just, oh, we're gonna come in here and we're gonna get lost in the wash. They're gonna lose us. They're gonna lose contact with us. No, it's a system. When you get in the system, you gotta go through the system and come out on the other side. It's a system. And then now here we go. This is how you know these fugazis out here on the internet. We're gonna go ahead and talk that today. They come out in the world. They say they got a system, right? But you gotta execute the system. How many people are okay with going through the system, getting a system in place, putting a system in place so it can work without them? See, we came out and we said we're going to do conferences and we're going to do trainings. Why? Because usually people that are first generation wealth, they're just getting into it, so they're learning a lot of the financial information that they didn't get from school. The second generation benefits from the first generation being able to give them that education at home, outside of school, public school. It gives them that education at home about money. Did your parents teach you about money? Or did you learn it from a public education? Or did you learn it from an alternative education through the internet? Because that's where the public is at, or the current status of civilization is at. What system did you learn? Did you learn the system to work hard? Not just now they get in this new term called work smart. Oh, make some internet money. Just learn how to make some memes. Learn how to do editing. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. But is that what system are you a part of? The trading time for money? Are you trading time for money? Oh, I'm not quoting that paradigm. Trust Christian in the vault. I'm not quoting that paradigm. I'm trying to make passive income. So does it take money to make money? That's a system. Because if that's a system, that means you're an investor. That's not stuck to just, oh, I need money to make money. No, it takes money to make money in certain businesses. It's a system. Because there's some businesses that doesn't take money to make money. Appreciate San Francisco for tuning in live, listen to replay. Always appreciate San Francisco for tuning in live, listen to replay. Somebody asked a question in the chat. Are trustees required to be accredited at some point? Well, it's a great question. You would think that a trustee, I think that would weed out a lot of people because first gens don't come from money. So that means we would be locked out if you're first gen, and the rules are you can only go into investing, which is making money from money. And that means that you already are a qualified investor. That means you already made that means you already have $250,000. You already had that. Like, so that means when you were born, you had that already. So when you got 18, you already had it, and you've displayed that you've always had this, and so they'll allow you to step on a platform where they'll give you leverage. So that's how that would look. But whereas in the system now, retail investors, you can get in. That's why they call you a retail investor, is because you can get in with less than $250,000. So you can get in making money. What did they say? You can get in money to make money for less than $250,000. People can put in, hundreds, thousands, whatever they put in, and people come up. So once you get past that $250,000 level for a few years, and you can do your if you're aware of what accredited investor really is, um, and specifically when you say accredited, if you're talking about accredited investor, those people have to display it over a few years. They have other requirements. We're not going to say that we know it all. We do know what the requirements are, but there are many requirements to actually hold that status. You can go do further research if you're not aware, but if you are aware, then there's multiple ways to be what's considered accredited in that respect. So when you say accredited as a trustee, does that mean financially because they are a fiduciary, or does that mean based off of some education that they got from a school or some license or something, like just because they're considered I'm a certified financial planner, so that means I'm a trustee? No, that doesn't mean you're a good trustee when you just graduated college and you've never managed money and you're $60,000 in debt. That's what the real world looks like when you're $80,000 in debt and you're working at some big bank, but oh yeah, I'm gonna manage people's portfolio. Yeah, but you're 60 to $80,000 in debt, making less than 120 now, and they're managing your millions or hundreds of thousands. So are they accredited because they went to school? This is where you get into different levels of management. Obviously, you're gonna have people that want to work at bigger institutions, more private institutions, and that makes a difference on how what you would be considered not just accredited but qualified. Qualified. Oh, we want to get them accredited. No, we want them qualified. You can be a qualified investor displaying the actions of an accredited investor. You are qualified. You can look up a qualified investor. This is the level of the game where you gotta have what I guess the young kids nowadays say, what you gotta have an abundance mindset. You gotta have an abundance mindset. And if you have that abundance mindset, then you can manage systems. What are the systems? Playing both sides of the fence. That's what the system does. So let's get back to it. Oh wow, well, that was interesting. Appreciate he's always got it. Look at the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is just interesting, man. It's just, ladies and gentlemen, y'all, yeah, this is the world we're talking about. Trustee system literacy conference, and then you have people that they have their things called distractions, ladies and gentlemen. People say, "Oh man, you just gonna go straight to being successful." No, you gotta put a system in place that enables you, that supports you, so you can get to your goals. If you don't have a system, it's like the public school education. What does it breed? Does it breed entrepreneurs, or does it breed investors? Does it breed employees? What does the system breed? Everybody knows when you in a system, it's going to produce something. Well, we know what public school produces. So let's hop over now to the private system, where we're talking about assets from the beginning. One of our previous conferences, we did interview an enrolled agent at the conference, and that was standing room only. And a lot of times, you get these people in a room, and They're aware of these things, but it's all about practice. You hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Oh, how hard is it? It's practice. You got to practice putting a system in place so it can be practiced for generations to come. We got to practice it. Why do you think they say practice in the medicine or practice in the law? Because they're practicing it. The law is changing. And when you're a trustee, you got to be aware of the law. But why do we need a system in place? Because we got to pass along an education. Because first of all, most people don't have a financial education. They'll admit it. Most of the real ones that listen to the vault, y'all know we're not saying nothing abstract or abnormal. Look at the public school. Oh, it's going to teach you this, that, and the third, but it's not going to teach you how to come out and be what just. We're not going to say it teaches you to be a millionaire. We don't need to say that. What we do need to say is it teaches everyone that comes out of that system how to financially manage properly, that they're not adverse to the system. See that? So there is a system, but are you adverse to the system? How many people are adverse to the system? For what reason? We can say many reasons, but most of the reasons traditionally are going to be out of ignorance, of not knowing. They don't know the system cleanly. Is the system made for entrepreneurs or made for employees? Well, the system looks like it's made for employees because there's all these benefits. But the system is made for entrepreneurs. That means just you utilizing your creativity from a specific position. Why do we have these employee laws in place? Because employees created unions. They started banding together. That's it. Otherwise, the entrepreneurs think every man's for himself, which in the real world, when you go home and you balance your checkbook, it's every man for himself, every woman for himself. But for some odd reason, what is the odd reason? The odd reason is people are not fully aware of the system. They haven't been given all of the education, all of the information. If you have the information, then you can make a quality decision about how you're moving in the system or about in the system. What within the system, without the system. You're aware that it is a system. Trusteeship is a system. Why? Because you're dealing with systems. Oh man, you're oversimplifying something that it seems so complex. It seems so complicated. We're talking about it from the perspective of knowing that there's an education and an information that is to be discussed. That information, that education is not in the public. It's in the private. That's that. It's in the private. The System Literacy Conference focuses on that education. Informed. We've been sitting here thinking about this and contemplating this for weeks, for different days now, over the past few, days, and we really just think about it. It's about you being informed, uninformed, and it comes down to there's only two words, but it hurts because most people in the public are they going to be able to not dilute themselves, but preclude themselves to 1% information. See, statistically, people from public school, oh, they make it, they make it, they make it. Ladies and gentlemen, they don't call it the top 5% for a reason. They don't call it the top 1% for a reason. Why? Because their results are extraordinary. Now, there are 7 billion people supposedly in the world. So now you see that you're not the biggest fish in the biggest pond. But we can create waves and ripples in time through our legacy. And that comes from your actions right now. That comes from you doing the day-to-day actions of recording your actions for your family. See, we're sitting in rooms now. We're going to go ahead and say it. where someone can account for 70 generations. And it's more than that. We're just being conservative on the number because we know it's at least 70. How can you account for 70 generations? You can account for 70 generations when you're deep into family. You can account for 7 generations when you care about giving the next generation just information, not the money, the information. See, that's how you know they're not going to make it because they're not focused on the information. The information is what you acquire for the next generation. That's it. The trustee system is about putting a system in place so you can be known 70 generations later. Oh man, I don't think nobody could have recorded time that far back. It's like that seems like the beginning of time. Right. It's not. It's not. And this is where we are in the world. People think, oh man, it's just 70, that's a lot. Are you gonna get back? Are you gonna get 5 generations known from now? Are you gonna pass along wealth 5 generations from now? Because they say that there's a set that they are the wealth management industry is gonna grow because more people is gonna be more haves and have-nots. So as the wealth industry grows, where there's more haves, there's gonna be need more managers for these people. And as it stands right now, the current status of the past 4 to 5 generations, 6 to 7 generations, the families that have made it and have recorded this in the past 4 to 5 to 7 in the current states have reported that the second generation there is a 70% fall off. It's minimum 70% fall off. You want to say, oh, is it Nielsen's? Google it. Percentage of fall off of families maintaining million generational wealth from second to third generation. There's a 70% fall off. That means you only got 2 away from you. You the first, but you're not. You're passing along the first generation of wealth. And then the second gen is after that, so you got to your grandkids. Yeah, you were around to talk to your grandkids. You see how that works? You were around to talk to your grandkids. Hey, grandkids, I want y'all to make sure y'all do it right. And maybe you spoiled them. You spoiled your grandkids might have more than you spoiled your own children. We hear these stories all the time. They oh man, trust Christian Revolt, I spoiled my grandkids and now they don't want to build a business with me. My grandkids are trying to do this and do that and blah blah. So that's where Trust Christian Revolt, we come in and we work with those families. Those families that, okay, we have an intergenerational gap here of hard work and work ethic and student mentality. And also a positive mental attitude. You could almost say third generation, their attitude, they're not Pollyanna. They almost have no worries. They're 2 generations into wealth. What would they know about a worry? They grew up in a mansion. They didn't grow up anywhere near a bad neighborhood. They grew up in a mansion. So we're talking to families that have that second and third and okay. How do we get them to communicate? How do we sit down? How do we get them to go on family retreats so they can communicate together? Let's go on a family retreat. Let's do a system literacy conference for the family privately. What's wrong with having a meeting for the family privately to get on the same page? 2 or 3 generations sitting there. Beautiful. You got the grandfather, you got the father, mother, you got the children. And to have it even further than that always makes a big deal. But how many people can relate to that, as they say? Oh, Trust Christian Revolt, I don't really relate to that, man. I'm the first one. I'm hopping out the gate for my family. Nobody in my family really trying to learn it. So I'm hopping out the gate for my family. I'm looking to learn this information. Because it's information that I gotta learn to do what? To pass it along to the next generation. It doesn't get any more complicated than that. You got to get the information to be informed to pass it along to the next generation. Why? Because public school keeps producing what it's been producing for generation to generation. Now we're moving into a system where you have to, they don't want to say self-educate, But we're in the age of information. If we're in the age of information, of course you're going to self-educate because it's based off the speed of the leader. Speed of the group is based off the speed of the leader. So you're the leader of your family, right? Right. So the speed of the group is the speed of the leader. The more information you know that relates to what we're talking about, management, growth, preservation, private family banking, private family setup, charitable investments, all this different type of stuff. That's what we're talking about. Uh, we've been here before. Trust Christian in the vault. Own not to control everything. They don't want you to give it away for free. You give it away for free, you look like the villain. They make you look like, it's communism. But we're not all created equal. And if you're not born into a system that can breed success, you're born into a system that can breed failure. That means you feel like a victim. A system of literacy means you can read and you can comprehend what you're engaging in. People say, "Oh man, I literally they got the Rolls Royce, but they don't know how to drive it. They got the Rolls Royce home. It's sitting in their driveway. They don't know how to cut it back on. The person that sold them didn't show them how to cut it back on, and they're afraid to break it. That's what they look like when they reach out to the vault. They got, oh, I'm in trusteeship, trust Christian in the vault. I own a trust. I got a trust. That's what they say, right? They got the Rolls Royce, but I don't know what I'm doing, man. The guys, that sold it to me, these guys that sold that stuff to me, they didn't really tell me what to do. It was this guy with this thing on his head, or it was this lady with this thing turban on her head, or it was this slick talker with the suit on, you know. But at the end of the day, it was a family member that sold me this thing. It was a family friend that sold me this thing. But they don't have the trust literacy conference though. That's all we're sharing with you. The trust literacy conference. Well, system literacy conference. I mean, it's down to a system. Ultimately. Yeah, they didn't really tell me how to use it. But I think it works together. Something works. It's supposed to work, but I don't know how to really work it. And I'm not trying to break it. So that's why I need to come to the conference. Well, we'll see you at the conference. I need some extra time because I need you to, I need you to make sure that I got the literacy. The literacy. Here you go. Hard line for y'all brothers out here. Trust Christian can talk to the brothers. What we call the brothers. Hey, brothers. When you're building generational wealth, the education might cost more than the assets. I know you don't want to hear that, but the entities, well, it's not saying assets, they'll cost more than the entities. So for everybody that thinks they got a deal on the Rolls Royce, first of all, you don't need a deal on the Rolls Royce. It's a Rolls Royce. It's not going to be under a certain number. So you're already supposed to be in that league. That's why we heard mentors say that for years now. They'd be like, "Well, you shouldn't be able to come in here and buy the Rolls Royce if you don't have $1 million." Well, really? Wow. Okay, that's what they said. So that means that they wouldn't have gave you out a what? Trustee education. For what? You're not in trust. So bam. Okay, you got the Rolls Royce, but you got to know how to drive it. They come through asking, can they? How do I don't know how to drive it. So you got a Rolls Royce. You know the price. You're supposed to be willing to pay the same price for the education. Why? Cause this is a Rolls Royce, man. This is one of those automobiles you can get in, and cars you can get in, and you can really like peel out in it. Like it's meant to be driven. Whereas some cars, yeah, it says 120 on the dashboard, but you're not supposed to go 120. The car's going to start shaking at 90 miles an hour, okay? It's a four-cylinder, okay? It's a Honda Civic type deal. You know, we're not promoting, we're not discrediting, we're just talking about it. So when you think about these things, ladies and gentlemen, you already knew what type of automobile you were getting. But then the education, you don't think that it should ever cost more than the actual vehicle itself. Now think about this. You probably, if you got one of these cars, you might get more than one. You could get more than one, but let's just say you have one of these cars. So you have the car that's pretty expensive. It's, these type of cars are pretty pricey. So, you get the Rolls Royce. Okay, you get the Rolls Royce. You pay to learn how to drive. It costs the same amount as the actual Rolls Royce. Some people say, man, that's a lot. Some people say, okay, but you know how to drive a Rolls Royce. What could you do in another type of car? Some people say, oh man, what if you took that car and you put it in certain conditions? How would you drive it? Some people are looking to see what it can do. So they keep investing in what? Traveling, going places, taking the car with them. That costs capital. That's the difference. Some people just get it and they relax with it. Some people get it and they actually do things with it. You hear the difference? That's the difference between a trustee growing assets from one generation to the next and one that trustee getting in and sitting on assets. We talk about that all the time in our trainings, how people come in, they sit down instead of actually growing. You have to grow. You have to be in the go mode to grow the assets of the family estate. It's like people think, oh, you're going to make $1 million and $1 billion and sit on your butt. We've yet to see it. We've yet to see it. It doesn't happen. And that's the difference when you talk about the trustee system literacy conference. It's going to be focused on that type of thought process. Look forward to seeing a lot of the newcomers to the workshops. Of course, it's always going to have, senior trustees that are sitting in the room. Obviously, the whole entire speakers are seniors. So we look forward to having those conversations with people in the room. It's going to be an awesome time. Look forward to it. Um, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to hit that like button. Always, promoting the likeness and promoting the algorithm of the show. Appreciate everybody that does that. Go ahead and hit the like button, but at the same time, definitely appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. We'll be on here for a little bit longer. Other than that, we just wanted to talk about this because this is a very important topic that, people talk about, oh, the conference, or, first, of course, the conference. People that are Rolls Royce people, they meet together with the cars. People that have higher end cars like Ferraris, they meet together. Alfa Romeos, they meet together. People that have people that have Porsches definitely have like a club. They have their own club. A lot of cars, higher end cars, have their own clubs. So it's not that we're talking about a club, promoting a club. We're talking about what we're talking about: trusteeship, the system of literacy that's accompanied with it in the private. Whereas everybody says, oh, I want to go private, or oh, I'm in the private. And then when the conference comes up, do you actually show up? Oh, man, I had something going on. Right. So you see how they'll have one conference every now and then and people don't make it. Why not? Because the trusteeship is, if they call it out real quick, you got to get it together and go. Why? Because that's what the mentors do. It's not forever notice. Sometimes you can give them forever notice, but the mentors usually don't give forever notice. They usually just pop up and keep it moving. So we're talking about it. August the 6th. Trustee System Literacy Conference. It's an asset protection conference, separating the business wealth from the family wealth. You gotta separate it, ladies and gentlemen. How do you separate it? That's a whole book in itself. That's a whole manual. And they want to come out here and say, oh, well, why do we need the training? You in trusteeship and you don't even know that you gotta separate the business from the family wealth. That's a fact. Oh man, I didn't know that. Right, because there's got to put a system in place. That's why. But they don't know that because they didn't learn from a system. They just got the information through the internet. And you gotta systematize the information. That's the difference between trust, Christian, and Evolve. You gotta systematize it. Oh man, what does that mean? You gotta get in the system. It's an education. The system is an education. Oh man, you gotta say it like that, trust Christian and roll, man. What you mean? I thought I could just Google everything and learn it. I could piecemeal it. I got my own intuition, my divine intuition. Yeah, then rely on your divine intuition. There's some mechanics to the law. There's some mechanics to it. You're not relying on trust Christian and roll. You relying on the mechanics to it. You relying on the structure that's already in place, that's keeping you safe. You relying on that structure, not trust Christian in the vault, not that system. You relying on the system that's already in place. But oh no, why? We already talked about it. Because when you don't know about the system, you rebel against the system. Oh man, I don't want that system to work for me. What do you mean? It's working for some people. Everybody don't have to be a billionaire. You could be a multimillionaire and be fine. You could make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and be fine. You could make whatever you want and be fine. But do you have a system that enables you the freedom to create your lifestyle, not be dictated one through a fixed income, as they call it? Oh, fixed income derivative. That's all you are, is a fixed derivative income, a fixed income derivative. And the system of literacy, it shares with you that, of course, there's manual labor, there's manual capital or human capital, and there's financial capital. Which one are you employing? Are you employing financial capital or are you employing human capital? Oh man, I gotta think about all this type of stuff. I want to be creative, but I gotta set up a business. I'm not really trying to set up a business, trust Christian in the vault. I gotta set up a business. I'm a creative. I'm just trying to get put on. I'm trying to get sponsored. Somebody gonna give me money. I'm a creative. All right, creatives, when you get took because you're not reading the contracts that you're in, that's why most of them don't own their name. And we was doing some research the other night. Why would you sell your publishing? We're going to go on the record, for the record. You selling your publishing means you're selling your name. Oh, trust Christian Evolve, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know. We're going to contend that when you sell your publishing, you sell your name. That's why they always ask you before you copyright it, is it published or is it not? So before you go to get the word copyright, is it published or is it not? But how many artists sell their publishing? What are you selling the publishing for? Oh, I'm going to sell my publishing. I'm going to get a publishing deal. You going to get a publishing deal, but I still own a name. But you sold the publishing. Right. We're going to move on. System of Literacy Conference goes over that. Are you selling your name or are you selling the publishing? The publishing, does it have your name on it? Yeah. Who's publishing it? They are. Right. They own the name because it's on their publishing. They're publishing it. Are you publishing it? No. They're publishing it. Publishing company now has that material. They have the help. The publishing deal, usually they own the cover of the material. They own the cover of the material. They may not own the work. They may not be the author. Remember, they're the publisher. They usually, oh, we printed the cover. Oh, okay. They printed the cover. So they published it in the public with the cover. And their name is like the executive sponsor because they're sponsoring the name, your name to be out there, or whatever name you got that you say you own out there. Own nothing, control everything. Well, first rule is you can't own it, right? Right. But then you just sold the publishing. You didn't do a deal. You sold it. That's what they speak like. I sold it. They didn't say that they did a deal. They say I did well, they said they did a publishing deal. Right. How much, who's getting who? Okay. Own nothing, control everything. Do you own the publishing or they own the publishing? You could go through a publisher. You could create your own publishing company. But most people go through bigger publishing companies. Why? Because they're bigger and they can get the book advertised to a greater audience so it can sell more units. Own nothing, control everything. Maybe people don't want to own it anymore. Trading is something you have to really want to do in order to create generational wealth. Well, there's a system to trading. Why? I remember sitting there talking to Cornell about that one time. He's been speaking at the workshop. He said, trading's been around since for over 100 years. That's the real profession now. But he said something you really gotta want to do in order to create that generational lineage of people going into trading. Let's also go over to what? Oh, when you treat your pennies like when you treat your dollars like your pennies early on in life, one day your dollars will be like your pennies to you. That's a system, a thought process. What's that system in that thought process, Trust Christian in the Vault? Victor, well, he's going to explain that you're not just creating a nest egg for your family, you're creating a system of banking, a private family banking system. Do you hear that again? It's the private family banking setup. And that's how we're going to end it. Because it's that quality. You don't need to do many of these. This is for the spiritual ones that say, for he who has ears, let him hear. The ones that listen this far in the episode. That's for who? Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, Christian at trustchristian.com. You know, all those people from Mississippi, feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Look forward to hearing from you. All the people out there in San Francisco, look forward to hearing from you. And everybody else, peace and joy.